Hi everybody, I hope everyone's well. I'm very excited today because I'm going to be talking to Dr Samira Hassan, who is a dear friend of mine. She's a GP, but she wears many hats, and I haven't spoken to her for a long time, so this is going to be really nice to catch up, and I'm sure she'll be an inspiration to many people. So yeah, just going to wait for her to join. But yeah, tell me how everyone's day has been. Just waiting for her to join. Has everyone been busy with work? So, just saying hi. I'm actually really, looking forward to this because her story is actually incredible. And yeah, let's see. I just thought it was her that joined us now. It's Simon. Yeah, so I'm very, very excited. So tell me, everybody, how everyone's been. How has your day been? Has it been very busy? Thank you for joining, everyone. Yeah, I've had a busy day today. Just been doing my surgery morning and afternoon. But yeah, just waiting for Samira. So shout out how many of you are medical students, how many of you are doctors. And where are you from in the country? Yeah, Osama, we're going to be talking about Samira's journey to medical school and life after medical school and her career as it is now. So I won't be doing no cases today. So yeah, thank you, Eid, for your question. I'm going to be talking about Samira and her journey today. I'm just waiting for her to join. It may be, she's probably making her coffee right now. But I think, you know what, everyone has their own journey and story. And I think it's just nice to hear how other people got to where they are and to try, inspire them and give them hope that they can achieve whatever they want to achieve in their life. And you'll be I know a bit of Samira's story, and I think you guys will definitely enjoy it and find it, very heartwarming how she got to become a GP and things. Oh, hi, Anshika. So, brief background of your story whilst I'm waiting for Samira to join. Oh, my story. I mean, it's going to be a long story if I start telling you mine, because then Samira will join, and then you'll want to. Then I won't know where to go with that. It'll just be like a cliffhanger, maybe. I will save that story for another day. But Osama, how are you? How was your day in work? Just hang on, guys. I'm going to see if I can invite her. So, let's see. Here we go. Invite. So I have invited her. So we'll see if... So let's just wait. Thank you for being patient. Stay here on live. So you did say 9:30. So what's your background? How do you mean? Do you mean, so I'm a GP and I'm working in Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. Are you from the UK, Eid? Or somewhere else, US or something? Samira is unable to join. I may have to come off the live and rejoin if that's a problem. So let me see if I can invite her again. Invite again. God, not very good at this technology. Okay, so where are you based, Eid? Sorry, guys. Oh, from Bristol. Okay. I'm actually from Cardiff, so it's not that far from Bristol, but currently living in Stoke. Oh, Samira, hello, assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
Oh,
وبركاته.
I
My
was so
apologies, I'm
excited.
late.
Don't worry. You know what? It was really funny because I was like trying to like keep them hanging on, we're gonna have a good night. Come on.
I'm sorry, you had to keep
So,
the crowd hyped up. Thank
yeah,
you
no,
so much
it's
for having
fine.
me. It's so nice to see you,
Oh,
Zainab. It's been
I,
so many
I
years.
I hope that we can meet up, like face to face,
We
inshallah,
have
after
to.
this.
We
But thank
definitely have
you
to.
for agreeing to do this. This is all about you tonight. I have been following you very closely on social media. Everything that you do is actually amazing, incredible. I'm sure you've seen some of my messages, and I'm sure the people who are joining live know that you're absolutely amazing, and you do so much for the community. But I want to hear your journey. So, firstly, start off by telling. I know there's quite a few people on here that probably know you, but for the people that don't know you, introduce yourself.
Oh, such a hard question. I've always been asked this, such a hard question. But first of all, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for having me. Me
You're
and Zainab
welcome.
have been friends for, I think, over nearly 2 decades now.
Oh
I
my
remember
God, yeah.
meeting you prior to even applying to medical
Yeah.
school and asking for tips and advice. So it's such a long time ago and such a full circle moment. So thank you so much for having me today. And thank you so
You're
much for the
welcome.
glowing welcome and
Yeah.
compliments, really.
Yeah.
But for
You're
those who
welcome.
don't know me, my name is Samira Hassan. I'm also known as Dr. Samira Hassan. I'm a GP currently based in Leicester, and I am from the Somali back community, as you probably well know. And I do a lot of work in the community, particularly when it comes to raising health literacy, awareness about certain different key topics that particularly pertain to the Somali community, but also every community. And also, I am one of the committee members of the British Somali Medical Association. I work as the vice president and the community outreach lead. And yeah, that's who I am in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
You've had many different hats as time has gone on. So I suppose. Oh, I'm so sorry. The camera's gone a bit funny there. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
No
But you've
problem.
had so many different hats on over the last how many couple of decades, or since you qualified as a GP as well, and you've even been interviewed by news reporters as well about COVID when COVID hit. I remember watching those. So just tell us, your journey to medical school. Like, I know that you didn't grow up in the UK initially. You came here when you were 15. Is that right? Just confirm that for me.
Yes, so I was born and raised in the United Arab Emirates, the
Yeah.
UAE, in a little city called Al Quwain, which is one of the lesser known Emirates. Everybody knows of
Yeah.
Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But I was born in Al Quwain and I studied there, I grew up there. And I remember as a child, I come from a big family, which is, alhamdulillah, one of the biggest blessings because we moved schools every few years. So
Wow.
essentially, my friendship group were my sisters. I've got 6 sisters.
Wow.
Alhamdulillah, we've always been
Mashallah.
the Isa family in
Yeah,
every school.
yeah.
So nobody would try bullying us or anything like that. So I
Yeah.
had a really sheltered, a really lovely childhood in the UAE. And then
Yeah.
I came here at the age of 15 and I completed my schooling in Cardiff. So I went to Fitzallen High School, for those of
Yeah.
you who are or know Fitzallen High School. Back then it was considered the roughest school, but I'm glad to hear right now that it's coming up in the league of tables.
Wow.
But I remember I had a few teachers who really, really believed in me. And they really worked hard to make sure I got the grades I needed because they believed in me being a doctor, I think before I even believed in myself. I've always known I wanted to be a medic, but I thought it was infinitely hard, and especially coming to a new country, trying to transition into what felt like a completely new culture for me and a huge culture shock. Because for me, when I came to the UK, I came without my parents and my siblings.
Wow.
It was just me and my two older brothers. So I lived with my auntie, my Hawarir, who's my mom's sister, older sister, in Cardiff for very many years. So shout out to my auntie, because she was like my second mother for the best part of 11 years. And so I grew up with my cousins. So it was transitioning into a new family, transitioning into a new country, into a new culture. It was really hard initially to try and fit in. And so the idea of becoming a medic died down, because I thought it was infinitely hard to even get through my A-levels, finish my GCSEs. But alhamdulillah, I honestly will never, ever forget the effort and the energy that the teachers, particularly those in sixth form in Fitz Island, put into my particular cohort and myself as well, because they really pushed us to aspire higher and to overcome our challenges. And I finished my A-levels, but I still couldn't get into medical school. So I worked in a lot of volunteering capacity for really a couple of years. So I worked as a learning disability teacher's assistant in one of the primary schools in Cardiff Bay, Mount Stewart, for those of you who know Mount Stewart. I worked with Bauzo, which is a women's charity supporting women who've been abused or have undergone domestic violence. I did a lot of volunteer work with Bernardo's as well, which is a children's charity, just to fill in my time. I worked as a cleaner. I worked in the call centers in British Gas, and then eventually I managed to get a place in medical school after trying for 2 years in a row and getting straight rejections. But alhamdulillah, you know, when there's a will, there's a way, and what's written for you will never miss you as well. So alhamdulillah, I managed to get a place in medical school. And I have to say, I got a place in medical school despite not having the entry requirements. I often tell this to young girls I mentor, because they often think I was a straight A student. I'm not normally a very academic person. And I'm not somebody who studies constantly. I do work hard, of course, and you can't get far without working hard. But because of the struggles I went through, and I also had some mental health problems as well, of course, having to transition into adolescence in a country that's completely foreign to you, away from your family, does come with some changes. I didn't get the grades I was aiming to get or I was predicted. And so I thought medical school was out of the question even then, but alhamdulillah, I tried. I had a rejection the first year, had a rejection the second year. Alhamdulillah, finally managed to get in and completed my medical school in Cardiff. And here I am. The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, and these career fairs that you've also founded these career fairs. Tell me how that came about.
So because of the struggles I went through, and since graduating, straight after graduating medical school in Cardiff, I came straight to Leicester. So this is when I moved, because my immediate family live here, my parents, my siblings. So it was nice to be able to come home, although home is weird, because the last time I saw them, or at least lived with them, was in the Middle East. So it was a sense of coming home for me, because it was the first time I lived with my family for the past 11 years. And so I moved to Leicester, and I could see the same struggles in my siblings that I had. And I think it's a universal problem that a lot of children have. It's so hard. And it's, I think, a little bit ridiculous to expect 16-year-olds to know exactly what they want to do for the rest of their lives. It's such a huge decision. And they're supposed to make a decision at that tender age without having any life experience, without any exposure to all of these different careers and fields and industries out there. And without having any knowledge, they're just expected to pick and choose. A very, very tiny percentage, and I would say probably 1% or less, of young children have a passion like medicine or dentistry or veterinary or maths or whatever. Most children are just winging it. And so I could see the struggle, and it's really difficult to motivate a young child to work really hard, put on those extra hours to get high grades, when they don't even know what the point of it is at the end of it, what job they're trying to get into. And so because of the struggles and the conversations I had with my younger siblings, particularly my younger brother, I've noticed that this is the same conversations I'm having with his friends. These are the same struggles children in my neighborhood were having. And I thought to myself, you know, me speaking to my younger brother is not going to influence him as much as young Somali men that look like him would influence him, right? So I just had this idea of building a Somali specific careers fairs. Of course, we've all come across careers fairs. We've all been to jobs fairs. We've all been to these UCAS conventions when we were younger. And I thought of doing something similar, but of course, to a smaller scale, but just Somali professionals and not just medics. Because another big bugbear of mine is that every that's, I guess, every ethnic parent, isn't it? Would like to see
Yeah.
their children do medicine.
We all want everyone to do medicine, yeah, or
Everybody
be a
has to be
lawyer, or
doctors.
yeah.
To be somebody, you have to be a doctor, which I think is infinitely false and
Yes.
very damaging to children's self-esteem and confidence. And it's such a waste of talents for children who are amazing in finance or the creative arts or performing arts or whatever it is. And so it's important for me to showcase the variety of talents and professionals we have in our community to ensure that kids are able to see themselves in these professions. They're able to see people who look like them, who sound like them, who have the same background, grew up in the same estates as them, had the same difficulties as them, make it and make it big in these industries and professions. And I thought, particularly for young men and people like my younger brother, it would be powerful. And so I just put out a call. I sat on this idea for 6 years, Zainab.
Wow.
Fun fact, because I was this major case of imposter syndrome where I felt, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to come out to Leicester for me? Nobody even knows me in Leicester. So for me, I had to rebuild all my connections because I didn't go to school in Leicester. I didn't go to university in Leicester. So the only people I knew were my work colleagues. But I used social media and the power of social media, you know, just putting out the call out there. And I was so humbled and honestly, really, really, really humbled and really honored and really happy because most of the people who you heeded this call and came to these careers fairs were people like myself who also wanted to give back to their communities. So it's not something that's unique to me. I just was able to provide the platform that everybody wants to give back to a young child. They just needed to be able to get that link and have that bridge to that young child. And so people came from all over the UK to my first ever careers fair back in 2017 in Leicester. People I've never met, people I've never heard of. They've all reached out to me on social media and they came off their own accord. They gave up their Saturdays, you know, and they gave up their rest day. And they traveled all the way down from different cities across the UK. Alhamdulillah. And honestly, I didn't expect to have that many professionals. Neither did I expect the turnout from the community that ensued as well. So ever since then, it's become part of our fabric now. It's become a tradition. And it's been something that's been emulated in cities across the UK, like Birmingham, London, even Cardiff. We did one as well. Southampton, Manchester, you know, so many different cities. Alhamdulillah, we even managed to conduct a careers fair in Melbourne. I was invited to a conference.
I think I saw that. I think I saw a post on that. When was that? A couple of years ago now.
It was just before the pandemic, because as soon as I came back from Australia, the world shut down. So I literally made it back in the nick of time. So it was March 2020. It was January 2020, actually, when this happened.
Samira, this is incredible. Like you
honestly, it spread like wildfire. And I don't think it's something that I didn't reinvent the wheel. It was jobs fairs and careers fairs have always existed, but I think it's just the concept of making them purely Somali, not because we don't want others to come and showcase, but we just felt that our children see a lot of Asian and Caucasian people doing amazingly well. I think it would inspire them even more when somebody who looks like them occupy these spaces in these fields, which is why I did it. And now lots of people do it off their own backs. You know, I can't take credit for it. And lots of people are organizing careers fairs and you know, providing that bridge and that lifeline for these children. And
so do you attend all these career fairs, or have you left it in the hands of somebody else now?
I try to attend as many as I can, and the ones I'm invited to. What I often do, however, in a lot of these, not all of them, but most careers fairs, is that I try and provide advice. So they will often reach out to me to figure out how to organize this thing and the people and the contacts, because I've built a huge network of contacts over the years. And so I will always like promote them, and I would always try and get the contacts to come and the professionals to come. But to be honest with you, most people do it off their own backs and do it off their own accord, and they're doing it even better than I did it as well. So kudos to them.
No, I think I've been following, because obviously we're friends on our Facebook at Kept in Touch, via Instagram as well, and I just love seeing your posts. And you're also a motivational speaker as well, and I've seen that you speak to you've spoken to sixth form students and about your journey. You mentioned how not everybody, you know, children get pressurized into doing medicine or being, you know, a lawyer or engineer and those kind of careers. But what actually inspired you to do medicine? Like, you're clearly a natural born medic, to be fair. So even if your parents encouraged you, they didn't do anything wrong there. But what made you decide you want to do medicine?
It's a very good question. I think there's so many different theories on this in my family. But in my mind, I remember from a very young age, as long as I can remember, my parents, my extended family members, including uncles and aunties, would often address me as Dr. Samira. And I think it was just Maybe as a child I started role playing. I don't know where they got it from, but it was sort of like a nickname for a very long time. And so it's
Yeah.
something that I internalized from a very young age. And I thought, you know, growing up, it's definitely the kind of profession I want to be involved in because it really fulfilled the values I believed in. I always envisioned myself caring and helping people. I've always envisioned myself being able to help the most vulnerable in the society. And that
Yeah.
gave me joy and satisfaction from a very young age and continues to do that today. So that bit it would have fulfilled, as well as the ability to make a difference. Because sometimes I know the doctor title is something a lot of people covet. I'm for one somebody who doesn't use that doctor title a lot because I sometimes think it's misused and I don't like the connotations that come with it. But I realize that having this title enables you to be in spaces where your voice is heard, and so you can advocate for people who need to have their voices heard. And I don't take that privilege lightly. But growing up, I initially, as a young child, I think hand on heart, I would say that I pursued on that journey of trying to pursue medicine to really make my parents proud. And I think that's how a lot of children start off. So that's the honest to God truth. I wasn't going to say that I'm a 10-year-old prodigy who believed in changing the world. I think at that age, my biggest goal was to make my parents proud, and particularly my dad proud, because he's put so much blood, sweat, and tears into making sure we got the education we had. And growing up in the Middle East, I was acutely aware that a lot of people around me didn't have the same opportunities. It's not like the UK where education is free for all. So for me, I needed to make sure that it was worth his time and effort and energy. But then as I grew up and as time went on and I realized the breadth of professions around me, I realized medicine is what aligns with me the most. I've always enjoyed the sciences. I particularly love human anatomy. I love the idea of helping people. I love the idea of traveling the world. In my mind, I was going to travel with the United Nations and fix all of the world's health problems.
Yeah.
That
You
was
can
my
still do that.
aim. I'm a little bit more realistic now, but that was my aim, you know, as a child growing up, you know, with all this imagination that you have growing up. So I've always went down that path. But since moving to the UK, obviously I had a lot of stumbling blocks, including challenges with settling in, my own mental health problems, which I don't nowadays shy away from talking about because mental health is so important to discuss. So I know there's been a huge wobble for a few years in my adolescent years, in my late teens and maybe early 20s, where I thought medicine wasn't for me after all. I was really worried about the 100-hour junior doctor weeks, which was a big thing back in the day. I was really worried about being married to medicine and it would be taking over my life. I was really worried about being, you know, having to miss family occasions and weddings and birthdays and travels and all sorts, and not being able to have a life because of this career. And for that reason, I applied to medicine, not wanting to apply because I didn't have any other option, because it almost felt like a last minute decision. I had an interview with Cardiff University Medical School. Back then it was known as University of Wales School of Medicine, if you remember. I remember having that interview, being the last person to interview. They gave me an offer and I rejected it.
Oh my day. How could you reject it?
Have you ever come across a medic that rejects a medical school offer?
Not really, no. You're the first one
here. And at that point, when I made that decision, I was convinced medicine was not for me because of the practicalities of it. Not because I didn't enjoy it or I didn't like the idea of medicine. I was really worried it was going to take over my life. And as most people know me, and even the same I am to this very day, work-life balance is extremely important for me. So I don't dedicate my entire life to medicine. I don't believe in that. And so I didn't want a career that needed me to sacrifice so much. And so I rejected medicine. And then I embarked on a 2-year journey to discover what I actually wanted to do, because my entire life was geared towards medicine. And I remember doing work experience in a dental surgery, audiology, OT, physio, you name it, everything healthcare related. And I applied and I had straight rejections from Cardiff University because they realized I was applying to every department.
Oh my gosh.
That was a very interesting time, to say the least. But then I think a year or two later, I realized medicine was for me after all. My mistake back then, which I don't want to say I regret because everything happens for a reason, was that I made those decisions based on my perceptions of what I thought was going on. I actually didn't speak to anybody about it. And the biggest problem I had was finding somebody who looked like me or even similar to me in the field of medicine I could speak to. So I don't know if you remember back in the days when we were applying to medical school, Zainab. You remember seeing very many hijabis or Muslim medics in medicine? I haven't come across a single one. Social media wasn't that big back then.
And I went to Stanwell and there were hardly any hijabis there, or
Can you
hardly any
imagine?
Muslim girls there, you know, or Pakistani girls that I could have spoken to. It is difficult, and I don't think I ever. I mean, I saw female, you know, Pakistani Asian doctors in the hospital. Maybe, you know, heard about it or seen somebody, or so and so's daughter is a doctor, but never spoke to them, like you
Mm.
said. Yeah.
I haven't come across them, to be honest, because I don't think I was exposed to them. I didn't see them in hospitals. I didn't see any hijabis or any female medics that I
Mm.
thought I could identify myself in them, who were doing well in the job and being able to be who they were as
Yeah.
well. And so I decided that automatically meant that it definitely was not the career for me. And so that's the one bit I advise every young person: before you make such a big decision, make sure you actually do your research, do the work experience, and actually speak to people like yourself in the field,
Mm.
because then it makes the world of a difference. So when I did that, I realized medicine was for me after all. And so
Oh.
I applied again. And when I applied, I had straight rejections, and I reapplied. I had straight rejections again.
Oh my.
But
Yeah.
it's subhanAllah, it's weird how things work, because the second time I applied and had rejections, I sent out emails to every single medical school. I think I was sobbing my heart out as I was typing it up in Cardiff
Oh.
Library in town. I don't know if you remember that library in town. And
Yeah.
then I asked them to, give me feedback on my application. And we all know medical schools don't give you feedback on
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what possessed me to say thank you so much for, considering my
Yeah.
application, but I want to get feedback as to how I can improve it for the following year, knowing full well in my heart that I don't think I had the emotional capacity or the mental stamina to go through this roller coaster of applications again. And subhanAllah, University of Leicester and St. George's both said that they actually meant to interview me and that there was a mistake in the system. And to
Wow.
this very day, I don't know how this mistake came about. But nevertheless, I was interviewed once all the offers were already given out at both Leicester and St. George's. And I
Wow.
was given offers for both. And so I took the unconditional one at St.
Yeah.
George's. And then I transferred after 1 year to Cardiff. And then the rest is history.
That is incredible. And what was they didn't say what the mistake was? Like, no.
I don't think I cared at that point. I
Yeah.
got a place into medical school. So I always look back and I think to myself, I think maybe my year was the last year that had paper applications, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And I don't know if there was a mistake with regards to my surname. Us Somalis have never-ending list of names of father, grandfathers, and it goes on all the way to the tribal leader. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if there was a mistake between, my official papers or my school papers as to what my surname was. That is my, I guess, theory as to where it may have gone wrong, but I can never be sure. And to be honest, I don't think it
Yeah,
matters.
it's
It was
fine.
meant to
Done
be,
now. You got
alhamdulillah.
in, and it must have been more like when you were applying that time when you were trying to get into medical school because you really wanted it. You must have felt more pressure because at the first time it was kind of like, okay, you know, I mean, there wasn't, but there was an urgency, wasn't there? Would you say?
100%. I think the second time when I actually decided to apply to medicine,
Mm.
it was for all the right reasons. I knew it was going to be a vocation. I knew it as a lifestyle. I knew what my purpose would be in it. And I already knew that I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. I think at this point, I wasn't wearing those rosy colored glasses that a lot of young medical
Yeah,
students wear,
yeah,
expecting to have all the perks and the frills and all the benefits of being a doctor without any of the
mm.
hard work. And you know very well as well, there's lots of dropouts in the first couple of years of medical school. And that
Yeah,
happens in every year in every medical school. Because a lot of people expect it to be a certain way and it actually turns out to be another thing altogether for them because
yeah,
they haven't really done their research. But for me, I went in there with my eyes wide open, with an open mind and an open heart. And I've never regretted it since. Alhamdulillah, I just feel like this particular medicine and particularly GP suits my personality, suits
yeah,
my character as a person. It really ties in with my values, my purpose. And when things are in alignment with the core of you and who you are as a person, alhamdulillah, it's always going to be something that you will continue to do. Now, I'm not going to say it doesn't have its difficulties. Everybody
yeah,
knows the issues we have in the NHS, and particularly with GPs, and we're both working GPs. But I don't think I would choose anything else, to be honest, even if I was
yeah.
to turn back time.
I agree with you. I feel as if you summed it up so nicely that it's sort of it carries your core values. Like I actually do feel that GP does that, and I don't think I could do any other profession. Like my husband's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Like I don't think I could, even though I know we could do it. You know, it's not like we can't do that. We can't do surgery. We can't do other medicine in the hospital. But we choose a GP purely because it does sit so well with us. And I love the variety of patients that come in. I love the fact that we can help them in different ways. It's not just, oh, you're coming in with a medical problem, let's sort that out, or a surgical problem. You're just seeing the person as a whole.
That's
And
my favorite bit, the holistic bits. You know, when you get your head out of the books, the first 2 years of medical school were just very theory based, weren't they? I'm glad they changed it now, because they introduced patient contact a lot earlier on in medical school. But back when we were in medical school, particularly in Cardiff, the first 2 years were very theory heavy, and that did not sit right with me. And if the rest of medical school was going to be that, I probably would have dropped off. Because for me, I see medicine as an art, particularly in the world of GP. I don't think it's an art maybe so much in surgery or anything else. But in GP, medicine is an art, and I think it's about your communication skills, but also your problem-solving skills and your ability to really read the person in front of you. Because a lot of patients will come into me, for example, with a cough, but I can read from their body language that something is distressing them beyond their cough. And unless I pick out on them, I almost don't give them the permission to open up and speak. They expect you to be caring and empathic enough to want to explore that with them. I love that aspect. It's not something I would ever shy away from, because one thing we all love to do is get to know our patients as a person, their background, their family. Sometimes we talk about childhood, we swap holiday stories. And particularly when it comes to palliative care, we talk about spirituality, our different beliefs, and how it informs our everyday life and influences our mindset. These are some of the most enriching conversations. And I just wish GP was not just 10-minute long consultations, which is the most annoying bit about the whole thing. But otherwise, I think, you know, building that therapeutic relationship through trust and mutual care and understanding with my patients, I think is my favorite thing. And when people come back to you and you can see them on a regular basis, and sometimes some children grow up with you. Obviously, I've not been a GP that long, but the idea is that some of these family members, you see them from cradle to the grave, isn't it? And it's about getting to know them, their immediate society, their family, and being able to make that influential change. And sometimes we get weird consultations where couples are fighting and they expect me as the doctor to tell them who's right and who's wrong and act like judge. Those are entertaining, but of course, I just think GP, the profession itself is refreshingly holistic, much more so than any other hospital specialty. And it allows people to be who they are as humans and not just, you know, treat the illness, but you treat the person as a whole.
Exactly, and the detective work, you're the counsellor, you're the, you know, you're loads of things. You're admin, you're trying to sort that stuff out for their, you know, letter for this or letter for that, and I think there's a lot of listening as well. And patients love it if you just listen to them, because they come in, they're obviously very worried about, they probably don't want to come and see you in the first place because they're a bit scared that you're not going to take them seriously. So just by listening, you are opening up that, you know, that gateway for them to tell you what's really wrong. And I think that really helps my consultations go faster when I am listening, to be fair. But the 10-minute thing, I do get annoyed about it because I'm always late. I'm never on time, no matter how hard I try.
Yeah, no, sometimes one consultation could be 45 minutes. And I actually have no hesitation in giving somebody 45 minutes if they need to. Like somebody who's talking to you about ending their life. I don't think the timer is even on in my head or ever is. But of course, there are some who come in with quick issues, like I just want a sick note, and that's 5 minutes. So I don't think it matters too much. Of course, it's important for people who are waiting to understand that sometimes you're dealing with an emergency, you're dealing with a really deep, complex case. But honestly, other than that, which I've learned to tune out, I don't let myself get pressured with time or anything else. Sometimes I run late. Most of the time, I'm surprisingly on time, despite my talking. But most of the time, it works out okay. But I really do feel for the profession at the moment, because there's a lot of people who never get to see their GPs. And being the only Somali GP in my city, I will never hear the end of it. Every auntie and every uncle complains about their GP, and rightly so. And you know, their complaints are valid. They never get the opportunity to see them. They can never make an appointment with them. And when they do, they barely spend a few minutes with them. As far as they're concerned, they're only there to warm the seat and leave. They don't feel listened to. There's not a lot of effort brought into making the time available, as well as an interpreter available, or really listening to what their concern is and really trying to dig deep. And I feel a lot of patients do feel dismissed, not just from the Somali community, but everywhere else around the country. So we really do need to do better.
I do find that surprising, because I feel as if, like, I've done the same training as most, you know, as everybody who's become a GP. And that is one of the core values, is to listen to the patient. When you even, you know, to revise the CSA, the exams, you know, you're meant to have all those skills. So what happens? Why is it that some patients feel the GPs have lost that? Is it because of everything that's going on? Is it the 10-minute pressure? There's so many factors, I feel.
There is. I will say sometimes it's the media and what's going on. And so if you're a patient and you come in with a, I don't want to say chip on your shoulder, but with a preconceived notion that your GP just doesn't care, then everything just goes downhill from there.
Yeah.
But also, I must say, equally on the other side, I have gone into consultations with aunties or family members or people in the community. As myself, I never claim I'm a GP or a doctor anywhere I go, because
Yeah.
it's just interesting for me to see how they see it from their point of view. And I have seen it not being conducted in a nice way at all. And I can't quite tell you what particular reasons are for different people. But I guess one of the biggest things I think I've seen in people, and especially doctors, is desensitization. I think when you're a fresh new junior doctor or a GP trainee or freshly qualified, you can tell the difference between them and somebody who's been in the post for 20 years. Because I think the empathy is still there, the enthusiasm is still there. I'm sure obviously our older colleagues do have the same, but I think they get bogged down with the pressures of the work, the workload, the desensitization, the lack of sleep. And we're human beings, you know, we will make mistakes. And if you're so worried about a sick child at home, you might really not be listening to the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to make excuses for any GP, but I really
Yeah.
do feel the 10-minute doesn't help. The current crisis in recruitment and retaining doesn't help. And I think a lot of us do feel burnt out. And I think
Yeah.
that doesn't translate well when we deal with patients in consultations.
Yeah. And I think just if for example, you're right, you know, maybe it could be perception from the patient side as well. If they are, if the GP might be trying their best, but because of how much they've got inside, they're not able, they feel like they've not been listened to.
Yeah.
But that's why coming back and having a review appointment is so important, so that you can build that relationship. But what are you doing at the moment? Are you a salaried GP? Are you a partner? What are your how's your life? How's your week planned at the
I'm
moment?
definitely not a partner. I'm a commitment phobe, as you know, so I'm not going to commit to that. To be honest with you, I started off as a locum, and then I was doing 5 sessions of salaried. Now I'm doing 7 sessions of salaried,
Wow.
which is a bit wild. And I do a couple of locum shifts as a telemedicine doctor, digital health. I work for a company called Doctor Care Anywhere.
Yeah.
And I've recently started doing some shifts in A&E as well. So
So wow. So
I
when do you
clearly
get
have a
time to
complex
sleep?
life. I manage it well at the moment, I'm not going to lie. I like the variety and I like the ability to be able to help people from different ends of the patient experience, because
Yeah.
I do find that clinical work alone doesn't fulfill me. I love it on a day-to-day basis, but I like the variety. And I want to be able to hopefully extend into medical education, continue with my community health promotion and outreach work, and
Yeah.
continue being a GP, but also being a doctor in A&E and seeing the patient from different perspectives. And I think that keeps my interest and enthusiasm going.
Yeah. So when you are in A&E, are you doing what? Are you doing sort of urgent care in A&E, or is it actually on the shop floor kind of thing?
No, so it's the minor injury and minor illness unit,
Yeah.
Miami as they call it. It's not quite
Yeah.
like Florida, Miami, I imagine. But a lot of it can be actually acute A&E cases, but that can be dealt with by GPs. And the nice thing about it is that you can have the blood tests and the scans at your fingertips there and then, which is
Yeah.
such a refreshing change to GP
Oh,
land, where you have to wait for appointments and weeks to get results back. And I think it's nice to be able to either admit the patient or reassure them, or be able to deal with it there and then. And so it's a nice change. And also, you're not
yeah.
pressured with the 10 minutes either. You really can spend that time with this person,
That's
because
so
people are in
good.
A&E for, I would say, a lot of the time for a good reason, because nobody wants to pitch up there for 14 hours for
Yeah.
just for
Wow.
the fun of it.
Yeah, it's crazy busy at the moment. And in terms of sort of just general advice, you know, like I know there's so many golden nuggets in there when you were talking about getting into medical school. Um, what advice would you give, just general advice to people who want to apply for medicine specifically? And you mentioned getting work experience, talking to people. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Uh, like
I think
advice wise?
my biggest advice would be, remember why you're doing it, remember who you are, and remember your multiple identities. I genuinely believe the fact that I'm a Black, Somali, Muslim, hijabi, female has really helped shape not only the kind of doctor I am, but also helped me stand out in interviews and in medical school applications. Don't shy away from what makes you unique. I
Yeah.
know at that time that I've never come across a single Somali medical student, let alone a doctor, at the time I was applying. Of course they existed, but they were very far and few between
Yeah.
and hidden. So for me, that identity held a very big contribution, I think, towards how I presented myself, because I was proud of that. I was proud of being able to represent the Somali community. And I put that across in my application, and I put that across because I'm not a private school, Eton College graduating,
Yeah, I know.
middle class
Yes.
person. And I don't play the violin, and I don't play rugby for Wales, or I don't do anything fancy and wonderful like that. So I had to stand out in my own way. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people value diversity, like truly people do value diversity at the core of it. I know institutions don't, but human beings do, because
Yeah.
I think that you stick in their mind. They remember you for longer, and you're more likely to succeed. And I think celebrating those aspects is important, but also remembering why you want to do this. And my why has not changed from when I applied to now. And so make sure that medicine is what you really want to do before you apply, because unfortunately, a lot of people do drop out. Not a huge proportion, but at least a fifth of medical students do drop out before they complete. And some of them have even left our profession altogether after medical school, isn't it? You see a lot of people talking about alternative careers to medicine. And again, it's not the majority, but it's important to remember it's a vocation. Why you're doing it. If it's for money, then you're in the wrong profession, because it's not the best way
Absolutely.
to make the most money. It is the best way to make the biggest impact, in my opinion. And I think it's flexible. It gives you great work-life balance. It gives you a sense of
Yeah.
achievement, a sense of purpose and fulfillment. And so I would just tell you to remember that when you're applying, there's going to be challenges moving forward. The personal statements, the application process, the interviews, which now turn into mini OSCEs nowadays, because they weren't like
Yeah.
that in our time,
Yeah.
as is all challenging. But honestly, just go in there with conviction, with faith, and go in there with a sense of purpose and determination, because it doesn't matter who else is your competition. I did not get the entry requirements required, and I certainly was not the creme de la creme of applicants at the time, but I still managed to get a place over people who had 5 straight A's and over people who went to private schools or comprehensive schools. So remember to celebrate the uniqueness of you, because this is what they want to see. And just,
Yeah.
if it's meant for you, I always say to people, especially if you're Muslim, if it's meant for you, it will never miss you. So just go in there, just safe in that knowledge that if it's good for you, and if it's khair for you, as we say,
Yeah.
then you will end up getting it. And if it's not, then try again. Don't give up. But
Yeah.
also remember that there's other things out there, other ways out there you can impact a change. And you don't always have to have the DR in front of your name to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You summarized that so beautifully, Samira.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do remember the last time I actually met you face to face was in the library in Heath Hospital. Do you remember that? I think I
Yes.
messaged you and we were on the computers and you were asking me about Leicester because were you fourth year then, fourth
Mm,
year or fifth year, and you were going to apply to Leicester at that time? And to
yes.
see that transition now to you becoming a GP and getting through that is amazing. It's
Thank
absolutely
you.
amazing.
It's amazing to see your journey as well. Honestly, a lot, and we keep in touch because I think a lot of us share the same struggles. It's
Yeah,
amazing to see all the dreams and aspirations we had and how that translated into real life. What,
I
10,
know.
15 years later almost?
I
It's
know.
subhanAllah, a lifetime ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, in terms of being a GP, how going forward, what are you going to continue doing what you're doing at the moment, and then just see where life takes you? And is there
I'm
anything?
actually keep trying to make myself now more open to opportunities. I think when
Yeah,
you are in medical school and then you're doing foundation program and then you're doing a particular training specialty, you're almost like a horse with blinders. You're trying to get through one hurdle after another. You're just trying to tick off everything you need to tick off until you hit that CCT, the certificate of completion of training.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah, I'm past that for the last 4 years. Then we had the pandemic that everybody was just trying to survive at that point. But
yeah,
now I'm really open to a lot of opportunities. I don't know where life will take me, but I'm definitely open to opportunities even outside of the GP's office in any way that helps me continue my work in promoting health
yeah,
within not only just the Somali community, but any community I'm involved in, but particularly, of course, for me, the Somali community, because they don't have a lot of
yeah,
representation. And continuing to help me help vulnerable people, I'm open to that. So where that will take me and where that will end up, I guess I'll leave it to fate, inshallah. But I'm definitely open to opportunities, including digital health. I continue with my careers fairs. I'll continue with mentoring. I wouldn't say, I'm not sure I'm a motivational speaker, but I do
yeah,
speak to people to see if there's any way my story resonates with them and helps them, because I really would have wished I had somebody who I could identify with when I was growing up. And so
yeah,
I never withhold my experiences and sharing my experiences with young people, because I think it's so important. It makes all the difference. And
yeah.
so I'll just continue being me as a person. And I feel medicine is one aspect of me, but there's so many other aspects of me I am currently working on. So
Yeah.
inshallah, we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I think that a lot of the community will be so proud of you. and we'll be really all the like young people will be looking up to you and seeing you. Anyone who's joined the live now, like they'll be like in awe of everything that you've done and are continuing to do. And I'll just say, just carry on, and I will continue following your story, and hopefully, inshallah, we should definitely meet up. Are you still in Leicester? You're in Leicester.
I am.
And my sister was living there recently, and I was
Really?
visiting quite a bit. Yeah, but now she's moved now. But it is a really nice place. Yeah, very very
No,
nice place.
we're gonna have to get our calendars and schedules.
Yeah, so I live in Stoke, which is about an hour and not even just over an hour from
Yeah,
you.
yeah, you're not
So
far.
I don't know why we're actually like haven't met for so many years.
But we do keep each other Instagram and social media as well. But definitely, I think we're going to organize a meetup after this, and hopefully Hina as well, who introduced us.
Yeah.
Just met.
Do you know where she is at the moment?
No idea, but we're
Yeah,
going to have to
I'll
track her down.
message. Yeah, we'll have to get like a little reunion together.
That
Yeah.
would be great. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me, Zainab. And I'm equally
oh
proud of
no.
the work you're doing. I see you are a STEM ambassador.
Yeah.
You're inspiring young women into the
Thank you so much.
sciences and engineering and medicine.
Yeah.
Mashallah, you've always been like this, by the way. It's not the
Yeah.
first time. And I think I'm probably one of the first people who've been benefited from your advice. I think looking
Oh,
back, and alhamdulillah, you
yeah.
continue to do that. So I'm really proud of you. And you do that being a mother of 3 kids. So well done. Well
Yeah,
done.
thank you
Keep it
so
up.
much. I really appreciate that. Those words mean a lot. And I'm going to take it because I think we should take what people say positive to us and continue trying to do the best that we can. But yeah, have a lovely evening. I better let you go. And yeah, let's try and organize something, inshallah. And best wishes to you.
Thank you. You too, Zainab. Honestly, can't wait to see you. But thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me as well. And I hope people have benefited from this.
Oh, I'm sure they will have. 100%.
Take care. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
Bye.
alaikum assalam.